Linda Geffen was the prosecutor back in 1997. She prosecuted the case. Duane Edward Buck, convicted of murder. And here's what she said about the sentencing phase of the trial.
Once race was injected and put in front of the jury, it is part of the record, and all the jurors heard that. It's almost like you can't be a little bit pregnant. You can't minimize that.
Joining us right now, KTRH legal expert Chris Tritico, Gloria Rubac with the Texas death penalty abolition movement. And Gloria, let me start with you. Upon hearing the prosecutor there, does that give you some hope that the governor may commute this sentence to life?
It gives me a bit of hope, and I hope that Governor Perry was right when he said on the debate the other night that if he errs, it's going to be on the side of life. So I hope that he does do that for Duane Buck.
Let me ask Chris Tritico, our legal expert. Chris, this guy's a murderer, a cold-blooded killer. In my opinion, I mean, who cares? I mean, he deserves to die.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the opinion taken by a lot of people. But in the United States, we still have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights and laws that say that everyone is entitled to due process of law. And when someone is convicted on bad evidence or wrong evidence, or in this, such as in this case, an expert who testified the way this one did, then we can't exact not only the ultimate punishment, we can't exact any punishment on that person until they've been afforded the full rights afforded them by the Bill of Rights. And stopping this execution would be the first step the governor could take in doing his ultimate duty to ensure that everyone receives the full protection of the Constitution.
All right, Chris. Chris and Gloria, if you guys would hang on 1 second. I did talk to someone who said they were a member of this jury. I want to tell you what they said to us here on Houston's Morning News, and then get your reaction to it, and that's coming up next.
Now, back to Matt and your morning news.
Prosecutor in the case back in 1997 of Duane Edward Buck said this morning on Houston's Morning News.
What should happen is he should be allowed a rehearing for the punishment phase.
Joining us right now, our legal expert, Chris Tritico, Gloria Rubac. They agree with each other. There should be a retrial in the sentencing phase. I had a juror, at least a gentleman who claimed to be a juror on this trial, and I had no reason not to believe him, say that when they heard the evidence, he doesn't even remember hearing this psychiatrist, Chris, and Gloria, and he said that the reason that they believed the death penalty was the right thing because this guy was such a cold-blooded monster. Chris, let me start with you this time.
Well, look, the fact that to this late date he doesn't recall that evidence doesn't mean that it didn't have an impact on the jury at the time that it was entered, and that's really the what we're talking about here, not what we're not what they remember these number of years later. And the law is fairly clear that you can't use race as a means whereby to evaluate future dangerousness, and that's the problem here. And by doing that, he is clearly entitled to a new punishment hearing on this.
And Gloria, as a member of the Texas death penalty abolition movement, you're just happy to see that somebody, even though this guy is a monster, won't be put to death. So now the taxpayers have to pay for this guy for the rest of his life.
Well, actually, to lock him up for the rest of his life is cheaper than to execute him. Executions cost around $3 million, and it's a third of that to lock somebody up for 40 years. So cost isn't the issue. And at the time, the Texas Attorney General...
It costs $3 million to execute someone?
Yeah. And there hasn't been a recent study, but in 1992, the Dallas Morning News did a study, and that's what they came up with.
That was a study that was before we changed the writ of habeas corpus rules, so it's probably come down slightly, but it is still going to be more expensive to do an execution than it is to house them for the rest of their life.
Really? That's the first time. That is certainly news to me. All right, I stand corrected then.
But if John Cornyn admitted that this shouldn't have been done, and 5 or 6 other defendants who were either black or Latino did get new hearings, then it certainly should apply to Buck. And I would hope that now Senator John Cornyn would also step up and say that he deserves a new hearing.
Yeah. All right. I want to thank Gloria for coming on with us. I know we kind of grabbed you late in the day yesterday. Appreciate your time. And, of course, Chris Tritico, our legal expert, always good to have you on. Thanks to the both of you for taking the time here today. We appreciate it.